MiHoYo's highly anticipated new gacha game Zenless Zone Zero released last week, and
ZZZ is a polished Hoyoverse turd.
Let's just say that not everybody was pleased. To say that ZZZ has not been what people expected is an understatement, even with all the beta tests it had. People hated the combat difficulty, the exploration system, and even the lengthy dialogue. Its sister games, Genshin Impact and Honkai Star Rail, had much better receptions at launch, and now they are two of the biggest and most successful games ever made. So what happened with Zenless Zone Zero? What are the main complaints, and are they all that bad, really? Let's start with the basics. ZZZ is a free-to-play gacha action RPG. It has a fast-paced action combat system, and you can swap characters in and out on the fly and chain together powerful attacks. However, the combat isn't really like its sister game Genshin. In fact, it's more of a hack-and-slash deal that reminds me more of the 2018 God of War and its sequel, Ragnarok. There's a lot of mashing light attacks and cycling heavy attacks, parrying or dodging when a flash appears, and special attacks popping up when prompted. So that's the gameplay in a nutshell, but what about the story and exploration? ZZZ is set in a retro-futuristic world called New Eridu. Years before the game begins, the world is invaded by entities called the Ethereal from Hollows, massive, black void zones that can appear without warning in the middle of the city, warp space within themselves, and corrupt anyone unprotected from their dangers. New Eridu represents the world's last hope, as Hollows have become targets for exploration and raiding, and proxies are independent operators who help others explore these dangerous places. Exploration of the Hollows is also a game mechanic. As a proxy, you don't actually go into them yourself. Instead, you use a robot companion called a Bangbu to map the area and guide a team of mercenaries. The way you explore is on a grid map made up of TVs, with each space resembling those on a game board. And this is what everybody calls the TV system. There are also plenty of minigames and side activities like running a video store and solving problems around the city. Now, do people like it? How are everyone's first impressions? Mixed, at best. One of the most common issues people have with the game is a perceived lack of difficulty with the combat. It's a fair criticism, but it's not that simple. There are only a few buttons you use in combat: a basic and charged attack, a skill button, and an ultimate button, as well as a button to change characters midstream. But that's pretty much the same in Genshin Impact, right? Why is it suddenly an issue here?
Why?
Well, the element system in Genshin is seen as more complicated than the button-mashing quick change of ZZZ, and as someone who has spent hours in both systems, I did actually feel like Genshin was harder to learn in the beginning. However, ZZZ provides challenge modes to its story missions and harder difficulties with all of its side missions, and they truly are challenging. This does take a while to work up to, however, and requires quite a few hours in the game to unlock. It also leads to the next common problem: not enough combat. Exploring the Hollows is done in the TV system, and it's come under fire a lot. It's seen as slow-paced, annoying, and each exploration mission seems like it's only about 5 minutes of combat for every half hour of total gameplay. It's a fact that not everybody is into puzzles, and the way ZZZ layers them into its missions could be frustrating for those who don't like solving them. But for those who do, it's unique and kind of special. The whole TV thing ties into the whole retro future angle the world of ZZZ has going, with a whole grunge aesthetic and turn of the millennium tech, alongside mechs and weird reality warping magic. It's understandable why this might not be a lot of people's cup of tea, but it does grow on you after a while. Coming back to the low combat to gameplay ratio complaint, a big factor in this is ZZZ's story and dialogue scenes. And there are a lot of them. The narrative is woven into everything, and the world they've built is incredibly interesting and immersive. But this is also true of Genshin and Honkai Star Rail, right? It's a MiHoYo game after all. Banger worlds and story are what they're known for now. If story isn't your thing, maybe this game just straight up isn't for you. And if it is, then you're sure to have a good time. The English voiceovers and localization are on point, and the story is compelling enough to hold you all the way through. Most of the complaints boil down to this: ZZZ is all style, no substance. It's got fantastic animations, the art style's tight, the world's great, but the actual gameplay itself sounds like it's not meeting a lot of people's expectations. The TV system is particularly divisive, with people calling for it to be scrapped altogether. Is this realistic? Will MiHoYo have to make large changes to ZZZ to save its popularity? Well, we really don't know how successful the game is so far, and there does seem to be a lot of people out there who play and enjoy it. They just aren't maybe so vocal about it. Time will tell. If you're on the fence, all I can say is that it's worth your time, and you'll know if it's for you in the first few hours or so. But give it until then. The way ZZZ is structured means there's a lot of potential for growth. New systems, new minigames, new areas to explore, and more story to discover. I personally think this game is a sort of passion project for MiHoYo. It may not be as successful as its two big sisters, but I'm sure it will get a lot of support still down the track. You should still give it a try and see what you think. Subscribe to our channel for more videos about ZZZ and other upcoming gacha games.